My boyfriend avoids kids, and I finally learned the reason why. Trigger warning, loss of a child. Sorry, this is gonna be a long one. I, 27 female, have been with my boyfriend, 28 male, Jay, for 5 years. We've both been very close with each other's families, and we've even talked about marriage. However, one touchy subject is children. By the way, this comes from Holiday Gourmet Turkey, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to r/OKStorytime subreddit. So, whenever we discuss it, he gets kind of standoffish. He doesn't really dismiss the idea, though. It's just that he doesn't seem invested. I've always wanted kids, and he just always says he's fine with whatever makes me happy. Ever since, I've been content with the situation.
If it's not an enthusiastic yes, that's not
Yeah, you got to be on board to have
because
kids.
at that point, there's people who will be like, I'll have the kid just to make you happy,
but
just
it's
to
like,
keep
no.
you there. But it's like, the kid's going to know. The kid's going to know that you didn't want them to be in the life. And
it can't be like the dog that he didn't want, and then he's like, oh, I love this dog now.
It's just that you know that there's going to be resentment and the kid's going to not have a happy life.
However, things escalated during this holiday season. Our setup has always been that Jay spends Christmas Eve and dinner with my family, then I spend Christmas Day with his family. This was the first Christmas I'll spend with my first and only niece, 2 female, Anna. She spent her first Christmas in the hospital due to her health condition, but she's okay now. So I made sure to spend a lot of time with her. We played a lot, we opened gifts together, and I even reenacted Anna's favorite storybook using her favorite doll. Aw. And we even had matching outfits. My sister, 30 female, Amy, thanked me for giving her and her husband some relief from childcare that entire day. However, Amy also said she noticed that Jay, who was just either sitting on the couch watching me or helping my mom with the dishes, was kind of distant with Anna. I told her I also noticed that before, and I just chalked it up to maybe Jay was hesitant and awkward to play with Anna because he feels he's just my boyfriend. Then Amy said she won't mind since she and her husband already treat Jay as part of our family. I then went back to Jay and encouraged him to play with Anna and help us set up her new dollhouse. But he said he's not feeling too well. He ended up drinking a few more beers and staying on the porch by himself, scrolling on his phone. I didn't press harder and thought he might really just be feeling under the weather. I just want to add for context that Jay isn't a heavy drinker. He's a sweet, wonderful, funny man who's sometimes broody and deep in thought, but never abusive, manipulative, or moody, and he only drinks on special occasions. The next day, on Christmas Day, we had lunch with Jay's family. Afterward, I volunteered for cleanup to help Jay's mom, 62 female, Mary, and brother, 31 male, John. Jay's family was the best any significant other could ever ask for. They're very sweet and supportive of us, but they're never prying. They always check up on us, but they never overstep. So as we were cleaning up, Mary asked me how my sister's baby was. They helped with the bills when Anna was hospitalized last year. Wow. This is a great family. I told them that Anna's in great condition now and that she already spent the Christmas at home. They were very delighted upon hearing this. Then I shared with them the thing I noticed about Jay. Initially, I thought maybe Mary could just give me advice on how to approach the issue with Jay, since he's clearly not the playing with kids kind of guy. But then John casually said something like, oh, because of Rosie. Then Mary quickly shushed him. Rosie was the daughter of Jay and John's eldest sister, Beth, 35 female. I never knew the actual details because everyone was very secretive about it, but all I know was that Rosie passed away when she was just 3 years old, and Beth and her husband moved away afterward. I never met them in person. So later that night, when Mary, John, and the other family members got a bit more wasted and Jay was already sleeping in the bedroom, they told me the story. I didn't force them or anything. Apparently, Jay, being the youngest of the siblings, was really close with Rosie back then. Jay was just around 14 years old when Rosie was born, so he became the super fun uncle, like I am now with Anna. He was actually Rosie's best friend. Then on summer of 2012, Jay was playing with Rosie outside. Oh. And everyone, if this is something that you do not want to hear, you can take a step outside because it seems like it's going to be sad. Again, trigger warning for loss of a child. I know this is... Then on summer of 2012, Jay was playing with Rosie outside. He was blowing bubbles and she was chasing and popping them when a speeding car driven by a woman who was distracted on her phone skidded into the yard towards Rosie's direction. Jay reacted quickly and was able to reach and grab Rosie so the car actually hit him. But the impact of the crash, Rosie did not survive. Jay was in a coma for 3 days and had multiple severe injuries and internal bleeding, but Rosie didn't make it. Oh my God. I mean, it is let's just take a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It is completely understandable why he could not, would not feel able to be around a young child after experiencing
like that's trauma.
That's truly. And again,
trauma.
I think he was around 14.
Yeah. So they were only 11 years apart. He's still a child.
Yeah.
When that's happened.
And also for him to act like step in the way.
He's in there. He tried.
Yeah,
to
he
save
tried
her, and
everything to the point where he was in a coma.
He was going to take the impact for her.
Yeah,
he did the full superhero move.
There's literally nothing else he could have done.
Yeah, nothing. Everything was caught by the neighbor's CCTV, so everyone knew that Jay was a hero for trying to protect Rosie. It was even covered by the local news. But Beth, who was understandably in grief, resented Jay for not being able to save her daughter.
I don't feel like putting that on the news was good for him, because then
probably not. Everyone's talking about it, or
he
even
had to relive it.
Yeah,
he's being hailed as a hero. He probably doesn't feel like a hero.
No, and now his sister is also saying you're not a hero,
and now it's forever out.
Yeah, that is just so devastating. I mean, of course she went through the loss of a child, but I really hope that like now or at some point she came back and, apologized for treating a child that way, a 14-year-old. Beth and her husband then decided to move to another country to cope with their grief and start a new life, and they've had minimal contact with the family ever since. Jay, meanwhile, took the loss really hard. He blamed himself for not being able to save Rosie and not being able to attend her funeral since he was still at the hospital at the time. Mary said that Jay was never the same after that. He never went near kids and became a lot colder, quieter, more reserved, and antisocial. He also had anger issues, but it thankfully went away. I haven't had any issues with this. We also live in an area where people don't believe in therapy. That was my question.
I'm seeing in chat that he was 17 when it happened. He was 14 when she was born.
Oh, okay, but still.
3 when it happened too. He's 17, but still, that's not even an adult yet. You're
still
not
child.
even. You're not even out of high school.
So Jay never received professional help. After learning all of this, I bawled my eyes out because I never knew Jay was carrying such a heavy burden. The whole incident became a taboo family secret that no one mentions in fear of Jay breaking down or doing something he might regret. They also never told me before because they assumed Jay would be the one to tell me, but I told them that he never did and that I never really asked him. I then thanked everyone for letting me in on this, and I told them that I'd talk to Jay about it when the time was right. They understood, and they said I could just ring them up if I need help or support in any way. For now, I just want Jay to enjoy the holidays and his remaining vacation days from work. Now, I don't really know how to start with him. I know seeking professional help to process all the trauma and grief, even if it's been over a decade ago, would be the top priority, absolutely. But I don't know how to bring it up to him. I don't even know when the right time to bring it up is. I just want him to know that I love him no matter what, and that I'll support him in every step towards his healing, especially if we're to form a family of our own. And there are some comments and an update.
Oh, okay.
But I think right off the bat, I think that OP needs to go to him at some point, maybe after the holidays probably, and say, hey, I was talking to your family about, how we could maybe approach like you talking to, or like you hanging out with my niece, bring that, like why it came up, and then say they told me the story about your niece. And I understand why you didn't feel that, ready to tell me, and just going into that with a lot of love, and then saying, kind of leading into the talk about therapy, because I do think that's really important for him to go to.
Yeah, I think that your approach is probably the best of both worlds, where you let him know, but also let him know that it's up to him when he wants to bring it up again.
Exactly.
Because if you force him to, he's going to get even more resentful, and then he's going to be even more upset with the family than he probably is already going to be after knowing that they told her before he was ready, when it's kind of his thing to tell.
Yeah.
But the therapy, I think, is very important, but it's also like difficult if they live in a part of the world where therapy isn't accepted. Because I've had friends who are going through stuff and they're scared to go to therapy because, like, if people at home find out, then they're gonna think I'm broke and they're gonna think all these things about me.
Yeah.
And in places where like there's such a strong like focus on community, like it seems there is here, that can be in some people's minds worse than actually living through the trauma.
Yeah. I think also I was talking to a friend about this, about they were interested in looking into therapy, but a lot of people had been telling them that who weren't going to therapy. And they were saying, like, it's really annoying when people who aren't in therapy tell me to do it. And like when people who are in therapy, it's like I'm more receptive. So it's, are you in therapy, OP? Do you know anybody who's in therapy that like could talk to him about that, about the benefits, so that you actually have someone who has experienced going to it and has seen how helpful it is?
I think a lot of the stigma around therapy is going away now.
Yeah.
Because mental health is now being talked about. It's being more accepted, especially with like minority communities where mental health isn't talked about. It's seen as like, if you, again, go to therapy, there's something wrong with you. But now like a lot of companies through insurance and stuff are willing to like, okay, you can get this amount of therapy paid for. So it's a step, but I feel like it's not enough.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
We're getting there. But I like therapy is, to go back to the story, I think the best thing for this guy.
Absolutely. There are some comments. Comment 1, Jay is absolutely a better man than me, times 1,000. OP, from what I gathered from Jay's family, Beth never really voiced out that she blamed Jay for Rosie's passing. However, she became cold toward him to the point of almost ignoring him during family gatherings before they moved. Of course, everyone knew what it was all about. And then a person replied, I think it's probably much more complicated than that. Grief like this isn't really an A plus B equals C situation. Like, oh, she's being cold, so clearly she blames him. To have a little empathy for her, I'd say it's a combination of grief, pain, and guilt that caused her to withdraw from her brother. Like, obviously the blame is really assigned to the driver, not the child who had a split-second reaction to be selfless and brave. But now all those feelings and people are intertwined, and you can't look at your little brother without wishing your daughter was still there and how you weren't there to protect her, and if you were, it would have turned out differently. And maybe there's also guilt of not being able to protect him because he was in a coma.
Yeah.
Situations like this devastate families. It sounds like Jay didn't receive adequate support at the time from anyone in the family, and they really let him down in that regard. But he's an adult now and can choose to take steps towards healing. It'll be painful all over again, but it sounds like he's been getting dragged through life by this, and he needs to know he still deserves relief. Comment 2 says, don't bring it up to him. Let him come to you when he's ready. He might get pissed that they told you because that is his story to tell you when he's ready. Opie says, yeah, this is what I was leaning toward as well. I just hope it happens sooner so his pain and sadness don't consume him any more than they already have. And a reply says, I do agree that you probably should wait till he brings it up himself, which might be sooner than later. Before you decide to have children together, you have to have this talk. Don't just assume having his own kids will magically heal him. It might make him worse, cause him to doubt himself and his abilities all over again. But I also don't see him bringing this up on his own, his darkest secret, his greatest shame and failure, to the one person he would never want to look at him differently. You bringing up kids and your concerns around them will bring this issue to the forefront. If you word this correctly, you could approach him yourself with this. I think you should. I think I kind of disagree with the comment saying,
I think the cat's already out of the bag.
I think you've already been told. Say something that addresses all his fears, directed anger, but is also full of empathy, coming from a place of love and healing. Maybe remind him, despite how he feels, you are the one person he should be able to talk about this with, to cry with. You're his person and he's yours. You know he's in pain and you can't just do nothing. If he was in your place, ask him what he would do. I still think you should wait, but I fear that he will never bring up this on his own. If his family hadn't already known, I doubt he would have told them. I'm so sorry, OP. Your story breaks my heart and I wish you the best. Please, while you are waiting, just keep in mind what I said. It might become relevant one day. And there is an update. Part 1, the confession. Since learning about Rosie and posting here on Reddit, I've been so conflicted about what to do. A lot of you had opposing opinions, and all of them had merit. But knowing Jay and how he'd most likely react, I chose to keep it a secret until I find the perfect time. Which, you know him better. So, what I didn't anticipate was that the perfect time would come in the form of a pregnancy scare. Maybe. Is that the perfect time? Is that? Back in January, I had a false positive. Everything happened so quickly within a day. I had a roller coaster of emotions, but bottom line was that I'm not pregnant after all. When Jay got back home that night, I knew I had to tell him everything. I told him I had a pregnancy scare, but he has nothing to worry about since it ended up being negative. At that moment, I saw all the blood drain from his face and he became so pale that I was worried he was going to faint. I was holding his hand and he became so sweaty and cold and shaky. He rushed to our refrigerator to get some water and it was obvious he was spiraling really hard. That was when I told him I knew about Rosie. I'm gonna be honest. It came out probably fine, but I feel like that wasn't the best time.
No, that's absolutely the worst time because that's
when he's like already having maybe a panic attack.
Yeah.
I came clean because I knew that was what he was panicking about. I assured him that I'm by his side and he could react however he wanted to it. I repeatedly apologized for disrespecting his trust and lying to him for weeks. I also asked him to please not be mad at his family because they meant well when they told me. Throughout all of it, I couldn't really read Jay's expressions. I wasn't sure if he was about to scream out of anger or burst into tears. I told him that we don't have to talk about it any further if he doesn't want to, but I'd be willing to listen and support him whenever he's ready. His only response that time was him asking me if I wanted to break up with him. Oh, which confused me. I told him of course not. Then we hugged. Then he said he needs some time to process everything before we discuss it, which I respected. For the rest of the week, we tried to interact like nothing happened. But everything was awkward since there is this huge thing hanging between us. And there is a part 2 to this update, the talk. But any other thoughts before we jump into that?
I can't imagine what this guy's going through. Because on top of the, oh God, I could have been a dad.
Yeah, I could have been dad.
Which is stressful enough.
Yeah, it already comes with its own fears
amount
and
of stress.
Yeah.
But then to not only know that your girlfriend has been keeping this from you.
Yeah, for weeks.
That your family told her.
Without telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then just to have to relive it on top of learning all this new information.
Yeah. That was just that was a lot. That was a lot in that moment.
Oh, I can't imagine what he's thinking.
Dorad says you probably should have waited for the panic attack to subside before revealing, but this conversation needed to happen before kids are on the table. Absolutely. I still think if I were to give her retroactive advice, I would have said, do it much sooner. Like, once you know, tell him.
Looking at this now, it would have lessened the blow.
Yeah, and you would have been able to talk to him while he was still kind of, in a little bit more calm mind. Part 2, the talk. The following weekend, which was 8 days after, we finally sat down and talked about everything. He started apologizing for not telling me sooner, but he revealed that his last girlfriend dumped him after he told her about Rosie. What?
Well, okay, that's insane. That's not the proper response to someone bearing themselves to you.
Oh my God. Like, it wasn't even dumped him because she found out that he didn't want to have kids after this trauma thing or this traumatic experience. It was dumped him after he told her about this. Mm-hmm. That's insane. He then told me that it was something that's been weighing him ever since, and he's confirmed that he never sought or received professional help. However, he said he's very much open to doing that, but he didn't think he's ready yet. He also said he's afraid to go down that path because it might release some inner demons and drag me down with him. Another thing Jay told me was that ever since Rosie was born, he felt an instant and deep connection and sense of responsibility for her, even when he was just a teenager at the time. He said that having Rosie in his life made him realize how much he wanted to be a father when he's older. Ugh. However, since the incident, he's afraid of messing things up again, so he never really considered having kids from then on, despite really wanting to do so. I then reassured him that we're on the same page on this. Although I also want to have kids with him in the future, I don't want to force it on him when he's not yet ready. He also said that whenever he sees me with Anna, my niece, he gets kind of jealous because he wants to join us every time. However, he constantly reminds himself to keep his distance just to be safe. I told him he doesn't have to worry about that and that he's more than welcome to join us if he wants to. I also told him that my sister and the rest of my family actually considers him a part of our family, just to reassure him even more. Jay tried to lighten the mood by joking and saying now that I know everything about him and still didn't break up with him, I could finally expect a proposal anytime soon. Sure, yeah. We both had a good laugh, but we agreed to wait for his recovery first before getting engaged or discussing our future family. What a healthy conversation.
That went so much better than I thought it could have.
Yeah, I mean, because he was in like a much better state of mind than having a panic attack.
He could have been angry. He could have been like, I want to leave because you hid this from me. But no, it was surprisingly a mature conversation.
Oh, yeah. He was like, hey, this is what happened. This is why I felt this way. I'm open to getting help. I just didn't know if I was ready.
Yeah.
Super, super healthy conversation. But there is a part 3. Beth. Beth is the sister. I was like, who's Beth?
Oh,
Beth is the sister. Yes, who moved away. During our discussion, Jay also had another heartbreaking revelation. He said that during the height of the pandemic, Beth's husband, Brian, reached out to him. Brian said that Beth had the vid and was confined in a hospital and that he was already running low on funds due to bills and unemployment. He also said that Beth had been almost catatonic since Rosie's passing. She had been resistant to any outside and professional help, but she was institutionalized for about a year after a self-harming incident. For the past decade, she's been cold, distant, and withdrawn from society. Apparently, the rest of Jay's family also knew about this, but again, they just swept it under the rug. It seems like this family does that a lot, and it's not helpful to anyone involved.
It's that thing of where we don't want to confront it.
Yeah.
So we put it off to the side until there is a point where it goes away, or it gets to the point where we can no longer ignore it, which is, it's not healthy.
It's not healthy for anyone. It wasn't healthy for OP's boyfriend, and it wasn't healthy for Beth, who probably felt like she moved away, and then I'm sure that a lot of her family kind of didn't feel like they could talk to her, so they just didn't try. And so that's so isolating To be fair, they had been helping Brian by sending financial aid to support Beth, but their version of the story was that Beth had just gone low contact since they moved. Also, to be very clear, Jay said that Beth never blamed him for what happened to Rosie, although he initially felt that way when he was younger. It was more of their parents interpreting and spinning things a certain way to avoid tarnishing their family's reputation. But when Brian reached out to him directly years ago, he started to understand better. However, he still hasn't processed everything, and he still partly blames himself for the whole thing. And there is a part 4, but again, the family misinterpreting things and not talking to Beth, and then putting that kind of misinterpretation onto Jay. Part 4. Our current situation. For now, what we're exploring is couples therapy, so we can discuss our mutual issues in a safe and pressure-free space, and hopefully kind of ease him into the world of therapy. That's great, because then it's like you're there too.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't feel alone.
Yeah, exactly.
We've already found the perfect therapist to help us, and we've now had 6 sessions with her. From what I can tell, Jay seems a lot happier and less burdened. We've also had homework from our session, and Jay was even the one reminding me to do them.
This guy's just green flags all the way down.
Right. So, it was such a sad story, but like so much progress and so much, great work done. Right now, I'm just hoping that he becomes ready enough to up about Rosie so he can heal and recover from his trauma. Not for me, but for his mental and emotional well-being. No rush though, all in his own time. Also, Jay has no social media, but I showed him the original Reddit post I made. He spent like 3 hours reading through all the comments. It was the first time I saw him get teary-eyed because he never expected so many people giving him support and saying kind words. He was extremely overwhelmed by everyone's kindness, so we're both grateful to all of you for that. We also saw some TikTok and YouTube versions of the story, and you bet Jay browsed through all of them. He's still baffled why the TikTok versions have Minecraft.
Oh God.
That's crazy. This is a crazy story
Subway
to have the
Surfer
Minecraft.
background.
Yeah, it's like talking about trauma and losing a child, and it's just freaking Minecraft parkour.
It's brain rot. For sure.
But you know what's not brain rot? Listening to full episodes of stories just like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app and search up OK Storytime. So there, if you've made it this far into our story, thank you for your time. I have a good feeling that Jay and I are going to be fine. I think so. We still have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but here's to hoping for the best. And edit, so Jay and I are now kind of sharing this account. He might reply directly from time to time. This is his first time on Reddit, so please be kind to him. Yeah, we're both reading everything, and thank you again for being so kind. And that is for real the end of that story.